Hey everyone, and thanks for your patience and for the flexibility for this morning. Um, you heard, I'm Timote. I'm the CEO of Dualoop. We're a consulting firm specializing in product management and product design. We started 3 years ago. We went from 0 to roughly 27 people now in just 3 years. And there's one thing that I learned over the past 13 years that scaling company is tough. What I mean, like really tough. And probably so be being a product manager, right? But when people look at my profile, if you want to scan, you see, usually what I see is this. So what I forget is that, yeah, I've been there, that's me. Uh, yeah. Don't say anything about my hairs, please. And uh, everyone, when they look at my career, they really see that smooth thing going, starting, being graduated from master in HR, then going in a company, eventually became the CEO, then jumping into another one. They really always think that it's an easy, smooth sail up until where I am now. Whereas actually the reality rather looks like this, right? After I got graduated from my master in HR, I started as a recruiter. I got fired twice in a year. I think that wasn't really meant for me. But then I was super excited. I got lucky, got my first product manager job in the startup 3 years after the company bankrupt. Then I took over the company, managed to become the CEO, got a lot of stakes in the company, and I quit after a year. Made an exit. I earned zero. Then eventually I went into another company, became the head of product, raised 4 million euros. We're super excited, sky's the limit. Then we had to fire the third of the company. I went to another company, started in March, so I signed my contract in roughly January 2020. Do you remember what happened in 2020? Yeah. Belgium. I started on Monday, 20th of March. First day of lockdown. Wonderful. I was in the HR industry, HR tech. We were hiring people in Orica, so hotel, restaurant, and retail. Yeah. In January, that year, they were making 2 million a month. In April, they were making less than 400K a month. Awesome start. Luckily, we managed to pivot, and then in July, we were back at 4 million a month. Then afterward, I quit. But then that's only my career, but there is also all the things behind and all the things around. All the doubt, having my daughter, second daughter, discovering my daughter disabilities, and so many other things that happened. So yeah, scaling product is hard, it's tough. But this story is not really about me. I'm just an anecdote. Over the past 3 years, I got really lucky to work with a very large variety of startups, companies, scale-ups, big corporate. And still, there is one thing that we always forget. That it's not about those companies either. It's about the people behind them. It's about your team. It's about you. Because behind every company's success, there are human beings like you. So if we take a bit of a step back and we'll look at all those companies, we can clearly see that there are different stages, different phases. And they all share certain similarities, I would say, per phase. And I try to take a snapshot of 3 phases. We can argue on them, but I'm sure that you will recognize a couple of things there. The first one is what I call going from ground zero to roughly making like 2 million revenue. And I still remember that when I was at Talent Square, my first job as a product manager, very early stage startup, we were so excited. Everything we were doing had an impact. It's easy, you start from nothing. So you build a piece of code, you deliver, you ship something, it's a new feature. Of course you'll have users being excited. You fix a bug, all your customers are happy, great. Iterations are super fast, small. Every single iteration drives impact. Communication is easy. Everyone fits in the room. You want to change strategy, you want to change something, drop a message to the other person, or even just talk because they are next to you in the room. Okay, now with COVID might be a bit different. Now with being remote is a bit difficult, but still, easy. You can only rely on verbal communication. It's fine, you can just repeat. You have to repeat something to 2 people, 3 people, 10. Easy. And there is that sense of urgency, right? We want to ship things fast, we're excited, we want to talk, and we go to a meeting, we talk to a new customer, go back at the office, talk to a dev guy, and then boom, new feature, happy customer. And then there is that other phase, where you go roughly from 3 million to 50 million. Things start being slightly slower. You start having some asymmetry in that speed between teams, because sometimes you will have a team that grows and matures a bit faster than the other one. I'm sure you recognize the moment where you are quite frustrated because the success team is highly disorganized and feedback is not coming, or your engineering team that is lacking people, so you can't go as fast as you want. And having impact is slightly more difficult, right? It requires you can't do anything in an iteration. Probably you have 2 to 3 to bring that really big feature, that big change in your product. You start having HR all of a sudden. You have someone knocking at your door and say, hey, can you write job descriptions? And can you clarify the roles and responsibilities in your team? And then they start asking you about building career path and having some evolution and so on and so forth. So there is a bit more administration behind. Verbal communication doesn't work anymore. Not everyone can fit in a room. So you have to write down things, you have to share more, you have to repeat all over and again to roughly the same people, but there is always a bit different people in the team. You start hiring, there is newcomers coming more and more, so you'll have to repeat again, you have to align. And then there is the 20 million plus. That's where you start having balance and some challenges between operational excellence and creating new values, right? I'm sure you can recognize that moment where you have that roadmap and you have all those great ideas about new things that you can build, and then you have the success team knocking your door saying, hey, there is way too many bugs and all these things have to be improved because X, Y, Z. And that's where also strategy started becoming even more important. Because up until the previous phase, even if the strategy was vague, you can still steer everyone in the same direction by just having alignment and communication. But as soon as you hit that 20 million plus situation, it doesn't work anymore. Communication becomes really essential, as well as the company culture. Because you reach a point where most probably all the OGs or a big part of them have left the company. You may have people, more new people than older people in the company. So the culture that you had at the beginning is kind of gone or evolved a lot. Many people may not recognize themselves in that company. So you have more and more people leaving, more and more people coming. You start having those internal friction that are slowing things down because you start having management layers. Up until the previous stage, you were maybe in direct contact with your C-level. Decisions were still quite fast. Now you have to go through multiple layers, and eventually you need to have additional meetings left and right to take to a decision. Even the simplest one are difficult to take. Do you recognize yourself there? I see some people nodding. But your product team also will evolve a lot, right? In all those different phases. I like to take the picture of those inflating balloons that we play with kids. They all ask you to inflate. I don't know, who has kids here? I have to do that pretty much every weekend, right? When they go in the shop, they receive that balloon, say, "Baby, Daddy, can you inflate it?" I say, "Okay, yeah." Product is a bit of the same, right? You start your company Your product is like the balloon without air, super small. You take a coin, you put it on it, you draw the surface. Well, you cover quite a lot of the surface, right? We take a €2 coin, put in there, covers like what? A fifth? But then your product grow and evolve. And you can picture that by the air that you're inflating in the balloon. And it goes exponential, right? You inflate a bit of air, and then a bit more. Then you take the same coin, and you draw again, circle. And then you realize that it covers really less of the surface. And that's the issue with product management. Because every decision in the beginning has an impact, as we say. Because the chance of being right by just doing an additional feature was high. But the bigger your application, the broader the scope, the higher chance you have of being wrong. And if you look at really at your team level and yourself, we can really picture those 3 steps. At the beginning, your team size is extra small. Probably there is only yourself. Right? So I like to call that phase like the get shit done. You're alone with yourself. Decisions are easy because you just put everything in your head. You don't have to document anything because anyway, you're doing it for yourself. So it goes fast. No discussion. Eventually, you align with your team, of course. You collect information from your stakeholders, from your customers, and boom, you ship. Then the team starts growing, and you shift from being an IC to being a first product leader, eventually head of product. You start having 1 or 2 product managers. And that phase, we like to call it the hustle and juggle. You hustle because you're still probably an IC at that time. You may still have a team. You're still writing user stories. You're reading the chances with your team. And then you struggle because you have to balance your time and your effort between being an individual contributor and being as well a manager or leader. But that's not natural, right? It changed completely your perspective on things. All of a sudden, there are people relying on you to define directions. And then you realize that it was easy to do that in your head. But then expressing all your thoughts is getting a challenge. And then the next one is phase when you start having a team that is like much bigger, like 4 product managers or even bigger, and then you start having even the middle management level in your team. That's where you really have to shift completely your way of working, and you're expected to really lead and inspire. You're completely disconnected now from the operations. You may not even see user stories, you not look at that. You're just there to set the direction, inspire those people, lead them, motivate them. But most probably, during the entire path, you'll feel lost. And I felt lost quite a lot of time in my career. I felt lost when my startup bankrupt. I was hustling like hell. I was the only PM, working like hell, trying to make it succeed. And still, we failed. Was it bad product? Actually, no, we had a lot of happy customers. But it does not depend only on me. Then, got lucky, I joined Helium, bigger startup, had high ambition. So I arrived there, and my mandate was to scale the product engineering, prepare it for Series A. Super lucky, managed to do that, convince investors, boom, I raised 4 million. But the day after, they're like, hey, we need to scale now. You must hire a team. I was super excited. I said, yeah, I will hire 2 product managers right away, and they will do that. And I hired 2. After 6 months, I fired 1 of the 2. Was that person's fault? No, that was my fault. Because I didn't know how to hire. I didn't know how to find a good product manager. And I had to reflect a lot on what were my values as a product leader, what was important to me. I also felt that leading and guiding that person. I also made a big mistake that a lot of people are doing. I hired juniors because I thought that I could train people. I was a junior, and I was a senior person. I was a head of product, so I didn't need a senior person. I was wrong. Because I had to learn a new job. I had to learn about how to be a good head of product, which is completely different from being an IC. Then I got lost again because we had to fire a third of the company. Again, was it a bad product? Oh no, there were plenty of happy customers. We were already making close to 2 million revenue. But still, we couldn't grow as fast as we thought. Because we were blinded and we thought that we had a unified portfolio of customers, and turns out that we had 4 sub-segments of customers and they had all different ambitions and expectations. So we had to take again a step back. Then eventually I grew and my team, I got a bigger team, and all of a sudden I had 4 product managers. Then I got lost again. Because all of a sudden, up until when you have 2 product managers, you're still in the trenches. You're still doing the job and you're still having an impact, still interacting with the team. When you have 4 product managers, you don't do that anymore. So sometimes I was just sitting and I was like, what am I doing? What happens if I leave tomorrow? And I was stressed because I'm like, okay, I'm taking a week of holiday and I don't receive any notification, nothing, everything is going smooth. So I thought they didn't need me. But then I realized that actually that was okay, because I was not working on those time horizons anymore. I was more forward-looking. My responsibility was to think beyond those 3-6 months. So actually it was a good sign that they didn't need me on a daily basis. But that leads to a big question. How do we stay relevant? That's true for you as product managers, but that's true for pretty much everyone, right? Our environment changed a lot, evolves, people change. Our product change, our company will change. So we have to change as well, right? We have to adapt. But we can't answer that question without really thinking about what makes a good product manager. What makes us really unique or good at what we do. So to give you an idea, this year only, at Dualoop, we screened 2,400 or 2,700 product managers. And we have hired less than 1% of them. They were like, oh yeah, but that's bullshit, blah, blah, blah. No. I agree with you. There are some parts where time is key, right? We're a consulting firm, so we don't need all the skills in any given point in time. Yet still, we really had to think well and to analyze what was important to us, what was, according to us, defining what is a great product manager. And it boiled down to 3 elements. There's the passion. Best product manager have really that unique way of sharing and leading by their passion. They really that convey that energy to others and steer them looking in the same direction without authority. And you know that well, right? You don't have any hierarchical way of, or you cannot impose things. You may really steer them, lead them into that direction. The best PM are really skilled in that area. And the third one is what we call humility. Because there is one thing that I learned a long time ago, is that as much as you can learn, there will always be more to learn. So the moment you stop and think that you know everything, you're dead. And then the other one is that your opinion does not matter. You're not the customer. You might be a user at best of your product, but you're certainly not the customers, and only the market knows. So your ideas value nothing. And the third one is the one I'd like to address with you today. Because I can't do much about your humility, I can't do much about your passion, right? But on your learning things, that's where I can eventually challenge you a bit. Because the best product managers have developed what we call a learning system. They have developed a systematic way of constantly learning. And to go through that with you, I'd like to give you a challenge. And I'll explain that a bit later. But to go through that challenge, I'd like to go with you through the 3 objections that we usually receive during our selection process. The first one is people saying, I'm too busy. I'm already working 40, 60 hours a week, and I don't even have the time to finish all my tasks. I don't have time to learn. Or people say, yeah, you know what? When I go home, I still have a family, I have kids, I want to take care of them, and I have my hobbies. Yeah. Bullshit, right? I call that bullshit because I have 2 kids, 5 and 7 years old. I still drop them at school every day. I'm roughly there 3-4 times a week to put them at bed. And I have hobbies, and still I find time to learn. My point is that you don't need 10 hours a week to learn. You just need 1 hour. Just 1. And then you're like, yeah, but still an hour, I can't find it. So I want to help you. This is my hack. This is where I find that 1 hour without changing anything in my week. Except one. Because the one thing I invite you to really think is about your bad habits. You know, the things that you do that are wasting time does not deliver any value. Mine was social media. Because you know that infinite scroll thing where you lose track of time, especially Instagram, this thing, I removed them from my phone. I'm not saying that I'm not going on social media, but just remove from my phone. That helped you already gain quite some time. I leverage lunchtime. Usually we take an hour lunch. Well, I take half of that sometimes. I try to rush a bit, still socialize a bit, but take a bit of time to also learn something or to dig on something. I try to take advantage of short meeting. I'm sure you all have that. People booking an hour, 2 hours in your calendar, and then halfway to that meeting, you're done. Yeah? And then there is a moment where like, okay, yeah, meeting is already done, and everyone quit the room, or start chit-chatting. Well, stop the call. And then you gain time. At the morning, I told you that I have to drop my kids at school, right? What I do, just put my alarm 30 minutes earlier. It's not much, half an hour. Then I still stay in bed, but I'm reading things. And my favorite, I know what you're doing when you go to the toilet, right? And cancel meetings. We always have people that are canceling meetings. I hope this does not happen too much because it's really irritating, but still, great opportunity. I leave ghost meetings in my calendar. When someone cancels a meeting, I don't remove it from my calendar. So I gain time. Second objection I usually get, we can't do anything in an hour. If you really want to progress on the topic, you should spend at least 4 hours a week. Okay, this time is yours. It's bullshit, right? Come on, I'm sure you can say that. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Bullshit. What time is it? It's like 10? Okay, you can do better than that. Your turn. Okay. You can do better, right? But you'll still have one chance. This is really bullshit. A course at university, I checked that, I verified all the data, is in average only 24 hours. One entire course. So in a year, you can take 2 university classes in just a year by spending an hour a week. And if you're not convinced, these are other things that you can do in such a small time frame. You can watch one keynote. Here, keynotes are 45 minutes. Right? So you can watch one. Or you can organize a lunch and learn session at work. Doesn't take that much time. Spend an hour, learn a new topic. Great. You can read 10 articles from Marty Kagan of one of his colleagues from SVPG. Again, if you have any doubt, I went there, I took shitload of articles, and I looked the average reading time. It fits. Same, you can read 2 chapters in average of a business book. There again, I look at the stats. I swear it's good, it's right. Or you can have a 1-hour conversation with an expert on the topic. Or you can play with a new tool. See, there are so many things you can actually do in an hour. And the third one, I don't know where to start. Okay, are you ready? Okay. It's your last chance, huh? 3, 2, 1. Ah, there we go. Yes, that's completely bullshit. Because the one thing is that it does not matter where to start. What matters is that you start, because if you don't do anything, you don't learn anything. Whereas if you start, you'll learn at least something that will guide you and eventually help you to take a better decision afterward. Learning opportunities are everywhere. If there is 100 things to learn, you don't know which one to pick, but pick one. Now you have 99 other ones to learn. But if you stay and just saying, I don't know where to learn, I can't do anything in an hour, yeah, sure, after a week or 2, you haven't learned anything, right? Don't forget that, remember, I'm sure you heard about that, the compound effect, the 1 person better a day, yeah? So just by accumulating small iteration, small learning, you're becoming exponentially smarter, or you're learning exponentially. So it's not about big jump, it's just about small habits. And to help you there, I want to explain you the way I approach that. It all starts by finding the unknowns, right? The thing that you don't know and that you should know. Up until there, following, right? Happens all the day, every day. I'm sure that yesterday you learned a lot of things, or you discovered some blind spots. Or even the previous talk about prioritization and the impact on that. I'm sure some of you, and I saw people nodding, like, oh yeah, and then making big eyes, and it was enlightening. Well, great, take note of that. I usually write all my notes and my meeting minutes in a notebook, and I use the left page to write down the things that I don't know and I should explore. And then now and then, I look back at that things, and I try to set goals and say, okay, I don't know that thing, but what it means, because I don't have to be an expert in everything, right? I should just know enough to unlock myself and move forward. We're talking about P&L just before. Well, some people may say, I don't even know what is P&L. Well, just write it down. It makes you 2 minutes to have the basics of what is a P&L. You don't have to become a financial expert. You just should know about the top line, bottom line, what comes there, gross margin, net margin. It's enough, right? Same goes for pretty much all the topics. So set goals. Say, okay, what should I know about that topic? What will unlock myself? Not about what are all the things I can know about that topic, just what I should know. And then prioritize. But not simply prioritize per interest. Prioritize about re-challenging yourself that among all the things that I could learn, what are the ones that will have an impact on me today or this week? What are the new learnings I can get that I can apply immediately? Putting in practice is really key. Because if you enter into big learnings, when you say, I will spend 10 hours, 4 hours a week on a topic, and then in 6 months from now, I'll know everything, I'm 100% sure that you will drop after 2 weeks. Because the thing that you will learn won't help you. And then you'll be discouraged, or then you will move on, or you will push back because you say, oh yeah, it can wait a week. But if you have the discipline to just set yourself a very basic goal saying, I want to learn one thing this week that can unlock myself. And if you constantly and repeatedly doing that, you'll be hooked because you will see directly, immediately the value. And that's where you can build a very positive habit for yourself. I wanted to share with you my keys to succeed in that. Varying format was enlightening for me. Because there's many ways to learn and consume knowledge. You can read things, you can watch, you can listen. We're all different in that. And actually, even myself, there are some topics that I like to read, and there are others that I'm just okay to listen passively. So I'm trying to vary to not get too bored in that. Setting reasonable goals, we talk about that, is really essential. Really challenge yourself. What can you learn in just an hour that you can apply? Don't overshoot. You'll be discouraged. Sharing learning with others is also something that I find very important. Knowledge only exists because someone shared it. So when you acquire a new knowledge, you have the responsibility to also share it with others, to continue that system. And you will realize that just by sharing that knowledge, you're actually learning even a bit more because you're formalizing that, it's forcing your brain to reprocess information and to express them. And you realize that it's actually very impactful. And remember that you're doing that for yourself. Remember the 3 objections? I constantly hear people saying, yeah, my company is not investing in me, or they are not offering me any training, so I don't learn. The average tenure of a product manager in a company is 18 months. So if you hope to have a bit of progress in your career, you'd better investing in yourself and do not rely on your company to invest in you. Because otherwise, the only thing that will happen is that you will stagnate. And then in your next company, in your next job, how do you expect to have a different role if you're not upskilling yourself? Do you really rely on others? You control your brain. Not everyone, no one can still plug in your brain and pour information into that. It's your responsibility. And have fun. There again, I think it's really important to really think about what are the things I can learn, I can apply this week that will make my job easier, that will help me to have impact. That's how you'll really leverage that. And you're still not convinced to say, that's too theoretical. Well, this is just this week learning for me. The 2 first one, I know if people are in the finance industry, you'll probably recognize acceptance, acquisition, and acquiring, sorry. Well, I have a new customer in the fintech world, and I must admit that it's quite new for me. So I had to deep dive into those topics. Then obviously, my first time in Belgrade, so I thought it would be nice to know what to visit. Even though I ran through the entire city this morning to find the location. Great for sightseeing. And HR rules for foreign countries, we're expanding, we're growing into the UK, in Germany. Well, we would better know when to hire and how that work in those countries to not make any mistakes. Well, also on my learning list. And my breathing exercise, to not feel like on stage today in front of you, trying to stay relaxed, not going too fast. So you see, that's just an hour in my week. I'll learn a lot of things. So to close that session, I'd like to invite you to do a small exercise. Don't worry, you won't meditate, but I'll invite you just take a minute and just close your eyes. Okay, you can. I'm sure you won't fall asleep. It's only 10. You yelled bullshit 2 minutes ago. Okay. Let's try that. Close your eyes. And now, try to think about just this week. What happened during your week? Was there a moment where you realized, oh, I didn't know about that thing? Oh, I have a blind spot. Try to identify 1, 2, 3 things that you can learn a bit more about. Now that you have found those few things, try to think about your week, the routines, and the moment where you're like, actually, I had 10 minutes there, or I had 20 minutes. I could have done something different. And once you have identified them, try to picture about next week. Will they happen again? Or will there be time in your schedule where you can free a bit more time? It's not changing your routine, not changing anything in your calendar, just finding those spare time. Now that you have the two, think about how can you best leverage that time? What are the 1 or 2 things that really help you to unlock yourself? Not big shot, just a few things that you can learn that will help you to be better at your job. Okay. So open your eyes again. Now that we're chill and relaxed, I really challenge you from now on to try to spend an hour a week in investing in yourself to stay relevant. And remember, if someone tells you that they don't have time, don't know where to start, what do you say? Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, I don't know about any questions. Yes, I see there first. Right at the back.
Sweet. Thank you for a really engaging presentation. I check out your website of your company, and there are like quite interesting topics. And I see many different companies that you work with. And my question, actually 2 questions. So once you go into a company, what are some things that you notice that you say, all right, this is really good product team versus like they're not that good? And the second question is, what are some common mistakes that these really good product teams usually do based on your experience?
Oh, that's a big question. I may need more than 5 minutes to answer. So I'll start by the second one. Typical mistakes we see is people that are growing teams way too fast, or people that are companies that are middle line. It depends a bit of the stage, right? As soon as you start growing, there is usually a pattern of lowering down the level of a company by hiring too many juniors versus too many seniors. So instead of ramping up your team, you're actually, well, slowing it down or leveling it down. Then afterwards, it's mostly about bad product management practice, right? Missing the foundations, spending way too much time jumping on solution and delivery and building feature factories. That's the typical mistakes, not investing enough time into discovery and understanding the customers. Or another pattern that I see quite a lot when there is a bit more cash and when things are going a bit well, people increasing way too fast the product team, and they fall into the trap of what I call the Taylor legacy. You know, Taylor is really, and Ford and others, and the industrial era that we've learned at school mostly. Well, they really see things as a value of as a production line in a chain where you can really optimize locally. And that works well in the supply chain because you are constantly building the same things, so you can really optimize locally things and have an impact on the delivery. But actually, really counterintuitive in product management and all software development, because we are building things that are new, they do not exist. And usually once they are built, we don't do them again, right? And as a consequence of that, if you split too much your chain, Either because you hire way too many product managers and slicing that. Either because you have functionalists and business analysts and product owners and product managers. You're breaking down your value chain. You try to optimize where you can't. And naturally, you're breaking the change, and everyone is losing the entire end-to-end view. So missing the end-to-end thing is usually the #1 issue. Which kind of answers also your second question, and what makes good product teams and bad product teams, end-to-end responsibility, strong ownership, being able to go from a clear problem to a business impact. Right.
Sweet, thank you.
So I won't be the only one running this morning.
Right, so you mentioned that you try to find time to do your learnings. But do you have any structured process about what you want to learn? And how do you deal with, it's gonna sound weird, unintentional learnings? Like, do you ever catch yourself being curious about something, or maybe getting a project or something in a new industry? And do you have a way to structure these findings and kind of, well, basically scale yourself?
Okay, well, I have ADHD, okay? So going deep into a topic and losing myself in that's my day-to-day. So in unintentional learning, it's a bit of a challenge for me, because to not fall into those traps, definitely. And that's why I love consulting, right? I can jump from topics in industry. On the day, I may have 10 sessions with 10 different companies. I love that. So any learning is great, right? So I'm not saying that you should only spend an hour a week to learn. I mean, you should constantly learn, and you will always learn, and there is always things that you will acquire. But being conscious is also essential. And being conscious requires sometimes just give you small challenges, and just an hour will make the difference being about. So not going about all the things that you can learn, but really the one that you should learn really make you an impact. And the way I prioritize, like I said, well, it's really about rethinking about what will make the difference. What are the things that I need to learn to be better today or tomorrow? And if it's something where it's a big shot, well, I'll leave that on my list, and that would be a hobby. But there are things that are really things that that can make the difference, like today. Like the 5 minute, spending 5 minutes to learn a new breathing exercise before a talk. Well, that makes a difference. So these things are conscious learning that are essential. And the way I assess that, if that at the end of the week I haven't applied my learning, then probably I made a bad choice. But there again, does it really matter? Well, no, because most probably at some point you will leverage it. But being conscious upfront and really taking the time to think about what will make the difference will help you to take joy in doing that. Because if you're only learning unintentionally or just randomly picking things, at some point you will just skip those moments. Because those meetings with yourself will be missed just because you won't see the value, and you just say, oh yeah, I have my learning time, but I can skip that because I have something more important. That's why I don't like blocking time in my calendar for this thing, because I will skip them. Because someone will reach out to me with an important topic or something that we'll discuss, or I will have to take a customer call. And I will always prioritize that, because these have short-term impact on my P&L, short-term impact on my team. So of course it's natural. But if you find the habit of just saying, these are the things that are as much important, then you can compare things. And then you will find time. And what I really invite you to do is don't just block an hour in your calendar. Look at all the opportunities that you have, all the spare times, because these ones are much more valuable, because then you don't have to change your habit. You just have to think and say, oh, I have a meeting I just have where I just gained 30 minutes. Great, I'll take the tab or I take the article that I already bookmarked and I'll read it. It's just available, just there. And that makes a difference, to me at least. Yep.
Thank you. Great presentation so far. Let's say you come to a company that has been working on this product for a very, very long time. It is supposed to replace a legacy product. What are the top 2 things that you would look for to justify the continuation of this product development?
Okay, can you clarify your question? Or can you just repeat?
So you come to a company and you see there's this product, there's a lot of money being invested. You come in as a CEO, so to say. What are the top 2 things you would look at to justify continuing to invest in this product? What are the things that you use to validate to continue the development?
That's an interesting question. Well, first thing I do, looking at the P&L. Right? No, joke aside, whatever is the product, of course, we're always burning cash, right? It depends on the return on the investment and the profitability of things, looking at the short term, long term, mid term, long term. That's the first thing I would do. So it hasn't been released. I'm not sure I will try to justify continuing on that thing first. I'll be honest with you. If I arrive in a company where they have already burned a couple of millions and something is still not yet in production, the first thing I would say is, okay, what's the target market? What are you trying to solve? And based on the person in target market, I'm trying to slice it down. Say, among that, probably the issue is that the target segment is way too broad. And I'm trying to isolate the people that have the simplest use case. And I say, okay, if we have to want to serve that sub-segment, they have lower expectations, early adopters. What are the requirements to have impact on them? And then looking back at what has been built, and then lowering down the expectation, and then trying to ship as fast as possible a simple version of the application that can serve a small set group. And then from there, again, learning. And if that requires to put half of the development on hold, so be it. That will be probably the first thing I would do. So most of the time, market segmentation and discovery probably are wrong, or it's usually moonshot and lack of knowledge of really what it means, and what are people in need, and what are in the trenches, and I will look at there. Does that answer your question? Any other question? No? Then we can call it a day. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day. Thank you, sir.